Now we're going to be looking at dive computers. We've been testing so many dive computers here at DIVEIN because we love them just as much as you do. We've been doing side-by-side testing, taking them underwater, looking at how bright the screen is, how easy it is to navigate, how well they hold up battery, and what kind of algorithm they use. And so many other factors to help you find a dive computer that suits your needs. In this video, we're going through 10 of these dive computers, but don't look at this list as a top 10, 1 to 10, 1 being the best and 10 being the worst. It's more a list of 10 dive computers that will fit different needs for you as a diver. And we do this because we think every diver is different and deserves a dive computer that fits their needs. Are you a new diver looking for a budget-friendly dive computer because you don't know how many years you're going to be keep on diving? Hopefully many, but you don't know. Then we have budget-friendly options that are easy to use and will make you be able to dive straight away. If you're looking for more advanced dive computers because you are diving often, we have options for that as well. There's also technical dive computers that will help you if you're venturing into technical diving or if you already are a technical diver. And in between that, there's a whole range of dive computers. Some that will do a lot of things above water just as well as below water. All of these have nitrox capabilities. They're all good dive computers, but there's these extra differences that will make this dive computer the perfect dive computer for you. Before we dive into the first dive computer, here at DIVEIN, we have a lot of dive gear that we're testing, and afterwards we can't use it. So it's almost brand new dive gear that we just have sitting all lonely here at our warehouse. So instead of that, I want to give it to you because, well, dive gear deserves to be dived with, and you deserve new dive gear. In this video, at some point, I'll tell you how you can get your hands on some of this dive gear, and it's super easy. Now, let's take a look at the first dive computer. The Apple Watch Ultra and the Oceanic Plus app is one of the most user-friendly dive computers, but it's also one of the most controversial dive computers. Now, how can a dive computer be controversial? Well, one, it has a really strict depth limit of 40 meters, 130 feet. If you go beyond the 40 meters, it will lock down and you can't use it anymore that day or 48 hours. I think it will lock you out. So that's a really strict depth limit and the most strict of any dive computer we've tested so far. But do keep in mind that the majority of divers, most likely you are as well not certified beyond 40 meters. So there's no reason for you to ever go down there if you're not certified for it. Just keep that in mind. It also has a subscription. So you pay for the Apple Watch and then you pay while using the dive computer app, either a daily, a monthly, or a yearly subscription. And a lot of divers don't like that, of course, because they're used to just buying a dive computer. Usability, though, that's one of the biggest pros of this. And it comes in a few different ways. One of that is you're using your Apple Watch Ultra every day because it's a smartwatch. You use it to track your sleep. You use it to get messages. You can do calls on it even. It's a really good smartwatch if you're looking for that or if you have that. And then you're going to be using it for diving, which means you know how to use it, you know how to set it up. And Apple partnered up with Oceanic, making this app, making it really user-friendly, which is, I think, Apple's biggest trait, is making user-friendly tech, and they apply that to the diving community, making the app the most user-friendly dive computer app. There's also a smartphone app that will lock everything in, so you get your logbook on the dive computer. That is really great as well. While testing, usability was one of the things that made a really big draw up of this one. Screen brightness as well. It's the most bright screen, and reading everything on this dive computer is so easy. Battery life, though, you have 36 hours of total use, the smartwatch and dive totally. But while dive testing it, we only got 12 hours of active diving. And all in all, when you're using this for a full day, morning, afternoon, diving and night tracking, you won't have enough battery to do a repetitive day of diving. So you need to charge it in between. You just have to be aware of that before you do a multiple day or multiple days of diving. You need to bring a charger, you need to charge it in. Dive-wise, it's using the Bullman CHL16C algorithm with gradient factors. If you don't know what that is, I'll make a video of that in the future, but just keep in mind that's the algorithm that most serious dive computers are using, and that's really good for you as well. So who should buy the Apple Watch Ultra? Who's it for? Well, it's, of course, or the Oceanic app. If you already have an Apple Watch Ultra, get the Oceanic Plus app because that will be cheaper than most of the dive computers that can do the same thing. If you're looking for a smartwatch, then getting the Apple Watch Ultra, you'll get one of the best smartwatches on the market. And then you get a really nice user-friendly dive computer. And it's really good as well if you're only diving a few weeks a year or 1 week a year, as many divers are. You get that one subscription for a month, and that's the diving you'll be using, and you won't be thinking about a dive computer that you have stashed in your gear locker. If you're not going to be using a smartwatch, if that's not your thing, then skip on. I have more dive computers coming along here. The Cressi Leonardo 2.0 is not the prettiest dive computer. It's not the best either. So why do we have it here on the list of top dive computers? There's a really good reason for that. One, the price. This is priced in at $250. Making it one of the cheapest, well-working dive computers on the market. And it's also rugged. This is like your Nokia 3310 of dive computers. So one, you can't break it. It will always be working. The battery life of this one is 1 to 2 years. It's user replaceable, which means you screw off the battery cap, you put another battery in, and you're good to go for another year at least. Just remember to keep an extra spare battery in your dive kit, and you're good to go for ages, really. The screen on this one is large. It's a large dive computer as well, which means it's easy to see the information on the screen. It's easy to understand what it's showing. And it's easy to use for everyone who's not diving every day. But do keep in mind, if you are diving every day, you might want to be outgrowing this one quite fast. This is for the divers who's diving a few times a year that doesn't want to spend all that much money on a dive computer, but still want your own dive computer, then this is a really good one. It's also one you've probably seen in many dive shops as well, together with the Suunto Novo. And the big, large, chunky dive computer makes it easy because they're more sturdy, they don't break, and the screens are easy to read. And that's a really cool plus of this one. In these tests, we didn't do a battery test of this one because, well, we would be testing too long. And because they're user replaceable, you can't just keep a spare battery in. While doing the screen brightness, this is not the brightest screen, but because it's so large, it's always easy to see what's happening on the screen. Although we do have to mark in that changing to something like nitrox or changing the time of this one, it's quite difficult, and you are going to be navigating a one-button push, which will frustrate you at times. So if you're going to be changing a lot into that, and again, a dive computer you don't use every day, you won't understand how to do it. So it'll be a Google search every time to see how you're going to change this one up. Still, price-wise and what it gives of value, it's a good consideration if you're looking for a budget dive computer. If you're not using for a budget dive computer and want one you can use a bit more, then stay tuned because I have another dive computer for you. Now let's talk about this Shearwater Tern and Tern TX. TX being the transmitter-friendly dive computer, so you can attach a tank pod and get your air on your dive computer. The Tern without the TX doesn't have that, so there's two versions of that. Shearwater has long been known and loved by everybody in the dive community. They're known for making top-quality dive computers and stand by their brand, so the support from Shearwater is also really well known. And now Tern, new last year, is what size recreational dive computer that can do a bit of technical diving, but is mainly focused on recreational divers. Perfect for you if you dive often, if you're working in the diving industry, or if you just love diving and you want to wear a dive computer every day. This is easy. It gives you the time of day. And then when you're diving, you have the Shearwater dive computer quality, easy to use navigation, easy to read display. And all in all, a really cool package at a price point that's not going to break the bank, because that's also an important thing to consider when you're looking at a dive computer. This is mid-range, priced mid-range dive computer because it does a lot but doesn't do all the things that the more technical dive computers or more smartwatch featured dive computers can do. While we did testing, Shearwater came out top of the line in terms of usability. This has a 4-button push, so it's really easy to navigate. And Shearwater is really known for easy to navigate, easy to change settings as well for the dive computers. So as soon as you get your hands on it, it's easy to know and easy to do. And anywhere you go on any dive boat, there will be at least another diver there that will know Shearwater, can help you out if you need to change the nitrox and don't know how to do that. In terms of battery life, this one has plenty of battery life in watch mode, more than you need, and it goes on standby when you're not using it. We haven't been using it for quite a few weeks now, and just popping out of the box, it's still 96% battery on it. While we did our lab testing of this one, it came out to 25 hours of active dive mode. That's actually 5 more than Shearwater is stating that it can do. So it definitely held up their end of the deal. 25 hours of straight diving, that's more than you'll need for most occasions. And it will give you plenty of days of diving. It's a rechargeable battery, which means you plug it in and charge it when you're home, and it's charged within a few hours. The only real downside about this dive computer is the screen. It's not 100% scratch resistant. It comes with a protective cover that you can change as well if it gets too many scratches. Just remember to keep that in mind. Don't remove that before you start diving, because it will keep your screen nice and protected. Now, if you love Shearwater dive computers, the Tern is a really good choice for you. It can be used every day as a watch, and it's a perfect good dive computer. If you're looking for a Shearwater computer that can do all of that, but you don't use every day, then the Peregrine and the Peregrine TX is also worth considering. I'll cover those later in this video, so remember to stay tuned on that. Now let's take a look at the next dive computer, because that will also spike your interest. The Garmin MK3 and the Garmin MK3i. The I is for integrated, so you can get a transmitter. Well, you can actually get up to 8 transmitters and connect up to 8 tanks. This is state-of-the-art, the best dive computer I've tried so far. And it's also the most priced one. But now let's just talk about what it can do. So it's part of the Garmin system, same with the MK2 and the G1 and all the other Garmin dive computers that's been in this series. They can do a full range of sports activities. They can do some smartwatch features, not as many as the Apple Watch we covered in terms of calls and getting messages, but they have a whole array of sport activities that you can track, and they're doing that so well. You get a lot of sleep data as well, so you got a dive computer you can use for almost everything above water. Now, what it can do underwater is, of course, why you're here, and this is not where it will let you down. This is a full technical rebreather dive computer as well, and it does recreational diving just as well. You don't get confused by all the technical features, because you can actually choose single tank, you can choose technical, you can choose apnea, and then that's what you're getting. That's the dive computer you have, or the computer you have. So it can really do everything for you, usability wise as well. Also, this is a dive computer you're going to be using every day, and therefore it's really easy for you to navigate it. It's a 5-button push. So you know from your everyday life how to navigate this one. Going up and down, choosing, going back in the menus is just as easy as the Apple Watch Ultra, which is one of the easiest we've tried so far. Again, because you're using it every day, so this is what you know. Setting up before the dive and using it while diving is super easy as well. Choosing the heading on the digital compass or anything you want to do, changing your gas settings, you can do as well, easy with a few pushes of a button. With all the technical capabilities, this is a dive computer that will outgrow you more than you'll outgrow that one. There is no, I can't think of anything in diving they can do that this one won't cover really well. The screen of this one, of course, won't fit to all the technical divers looking for a big readable screen, but it is one of the brightest we've tested so far, only matched by the Apple Watch Ultra, but so bright that you won't be disappointed. You can see whatever. You can turn down the lighting as well if you want, and anything you want to have displayed on the screen, you can get displayed on the screen, which means that this is the perfect dive computer for your diving and for your everyday life as well. You can connect up to 8 transmitters, and if your buddy also have an MK3i, you can actually do diver-to-diver messaging through the T2 transmitters, which means you both have to do an MK3i and the T2 transmitters, and then you can actually do a few sets of a few preset messages to each other. That's a really cool thing. It's more a gimmick, and I don't have any real use case for it, except you can message and it's fun. And in case of emergency, you can send a help signal. On the larger ones, you actually start flashing this flashlight down here. And that actually, while I was testing, I got a few divers pointing at me and going like, hey, something's on. If I'd been in an emergency, been able to send that help message, my buddy would have get a message saying, hey, I need help. And other divers will be able to see it. That's a cool feature. And now coming into battery time. In your everyday life, you have more than 30 hours of battery. The more you use it, of course, the less battery. While in active diving, Garmin promises 66 hours of battery. But the large version, the 51 millimeter, actually came out to 175 hours. And it went into battery power saving mode. But every time we did a button push or did a depth change on the test, it reacted straight away. So it was still tracking the whole dive, 175 hours. Now the smaller version of it, so for Garmin, we have the 51 and 43 millimeters. The smaller version, we were promised 30 hours, but we actually got 54 hours of battery while actively diving. That's the best of the two tests we've done so far. Who should consider getting the Garmin MK3i? Well, it can do everything. So the only drawback I have of the dive computer is the price. The price on this one, with the transmitter as well that you'll need for the diver-to-diver messaging, is if that's what you're looking for as well, then this is the most pricey dive computer in our test. And that's the drawback of it. If you do have the money for it, I'll definitely recommend the MK3i to any diver because it can do so many things. If you're looking for a dive computer that can do less but still has some of the cool sports activities, let's look at the next dive computer on this list. Next up on our list is the Garmin G1. This is a dive computer that is similar in many ways to the MK series that we just covered here. It has all the smartwatch features as the MK. You can get your messages, you can read messages, you can start and stop music from the watch. And you can do a whole range of sports tracking activities similar to the MK3i. Not as many as the MK3i, but more than most people will need. In terms of diving, we have all the same dive modes, single gas, multi gas, and you have the full technical Trimix CCR capabilities. So it does everything similar to the MK3i, but it's priced in a lot lower, almost a quarter of the price of the MK3i. So this is ranging in at a really nice spot of a recreational dive computer that's really good, but priced in quite well in a mid-range level. So where's the drawback on this? Because there has to be, otherwise everybody would just get this one. Well, this screen size for one, this has a smaller screen and it's not color display, which means it can be a bit difficult to read in some conditions. Or if you have trouble with your visions, this is not one for you. Buttons are a bit smaller, so especially with gloves, it can be a bit more difficult to hit the right buttons. When you're using it every day, you do get your hands on which button does what and how to navigate it. So that's a plus in terms of how to navigate this one. Now in our test of battery life, the G1 came out whopping as well, similar to the MK3i, with almost 140 hours of battery time while in active dive mode, where Garmin promises 25 hours. This is a 2-year-old version of the G1, which means the battery should have been worn down a bit. It's been used as well every day for those 2 years, but the battery is still doing well. When we're charging up, we get more than 25 days of everyday use and then almost 140 hours in active dive mode. So who should get this one? Well, recreational divers looking for a dive computer you can use above water and below water that doesn't have the money to spend on an MK3i, but it still wants a dive computer that can do something above and below the water. Now, let's take a look at the next dive computer on the list. The Suunto Novo. It's been on lists of dive computers forever. This is one of the good old classics of dive computers. It's not the best dive computer either, but it's really comparable to the Cressi Leonardo that we covered earlier in this video. Suunto Novo is same size, large dive computer. It's a bit more expensive, but you do also get 4 buttons instead of just 1 button push. So this one is easy to navigate, even as a new diver or a diver who doesn't dive that often. It's big and rugged, which means you don't have to worry about breaking it. And it also has a protective screen that you can change if it gets too many scratches. All in all, the Suunto Novo is a great beginner entry-level dive computer that will even last you for a lot of years because it still covers nitrox diving and everything you need as a recreational diver. So it's not something that will stop working within near future. You can be diving with this for a lot of years, and a lot of divers are using it year after year. Still, it's a simple dive computer. So if you are looking for something a bit more technical, take a look at the next dive computer we're covering here. Next up is the Shearwater Peregrine and Peregrine TX. The TX is brand new from Shearwater, but Shearwater have had the Peregrine for so long and it's beloved by a lot of recreational divers. So much that they made the Tern and Tern TX that we covered earlier in this video. So a dive computer like the Tern has all the same specs and features as the Tern that we covered, so perfect for recreational divers, easy to use menus, but just a larger screen. And the TX version comes with air integration that a lot of people have been looking for with the Peregrine, but now Shearwater is offering that as well, so you can get a TX version, so you can get a transmitter on your regulator and get air integrations. The TX version also comes with a digital compass, something that's not in the standard Peregrine version. So Peregrine is much like the Tern that we covered. Easy to use menu, easy to use navigation, perfect for recreational divers to give you all the things that you need. The Peregrine just have a really large, nice, readable screen. All the information you have is so easy to capture. The screen is bright with 3 brightness settings, so you can't turn it down if you think it's actually too bright. And battery life, that is 31 hours. That's 1 hour more than the promised 30 hours by Shearwater. So definitely a lot of battery time on this dive computer. And because you're not using this one every day, or as soon as you're out of the water, you leave it with your dive gear, it will go into battery saving modes, and you'll have plenty of battery for multiple days of diving with this one. It's rechargeable easy with a wireless charger, so you don't have to unscrew anything for this dive computer. It just goes on. Now, next dive computer is completely different from the Shearwater that we just covered, but it's still worth taking a look at. The Cressi Neon dive computer is quite similar to the Cressi Leonardo that we covered earlier, just in a smaller package, and it comes in a full range of colors, so you can match any style of your dive gear that you want. This is easy to use out of the water as well because of the small size. This is the smallest of the ones we've tested, and also the lightest of the ones. It doesn't have any features outside the water except it tells you time, but it's easy to wear in and out of the water without it being in the way like the big, bulky Cressi Leonardo dive computer. In our testing of the Cressi, usability was somewhat okay. It has a 2-button push, so it's not as easy as a lot of the other dive computers. It does, though, give you all the important in-dive information at a glance on the screen. It's not color display, which means you don't have the brightest readings of it, but it's quite simple to get it. So it works really well for divers who dive often, but is not looking for a really advanced dive computer. Also, given that the budget of it is much more friendly than a lot of the other dive computers on this list, it's worth recommending if you are looking for a small size budget dive computer. Next up is the Shearwater Perdix 2. This is top of the line in terms of technical dive computers. As you probably noticed in this list, we don't have that many dive computers that are solely aimed towards technical divers, but this one is. And if you are thinking that your next step in diving is technical diving, then the Perdix 2 is the dive computer you should look at. It does recreational diving, but it's so much more catered towards the technical dive world, and it does that really well. So among the things that we really love is, of course, the big, nice color display that it's customizable, so you can choose what you want of information. That's, of course, why the technical divers love them, because they always have something special that they want to see. For you, you can also just use it straight out of the box and go diving with it. 2-button navigation. As soon as you get a hold of that, Shearwater menus is really intuitive and easy to understand. There is a AA battery that is changeable, of course, but that also means that you can get a hold of a spare battery no matter where in the world you are. And that's really good for a lot of divers that are diving remote areas. Price point of that one, or this one, is at the high end, which also means that this is a dive computer you should consider if you are looking at a technical dive computer. If not, then we covered plenty of Shearwater dive computers and other dive computers that are doing all what people love of Shearwater, but without all the technical capabilities. And if, again, you are looking at your next technical dive adventure, then this is a dive computer worth considering. If you are looking for a technical dive computer, the Shearwaters we've covered are known for that. If you don't want the size of the Perdix 2 we just covered, then the Teric is definitely worth looking at as well. It has the same technical dive capabilities of the Perdix, not the same depth ratings, but it's still a really good dive computer. In our testing, this one came out with a super bright display, not the best of them all, but really good. It has 3 display brightness settings, so you can turn it down as well if you're doing night diving or if you're doing cave diving and so on. Usability of this one, it has the really nice 4-button push, making it easy to navigate, as we know from the Tern, and also, again, the Shearwater menus are super intuitive. And then battery time, we got on this one 35 hours while testing it. In active dive mode, Shearwater only promised us 30 hours, so that's a really good time in an active dive. This one has that watch mode, so if you're using it in your everyday life, it doesn't use that much battery because it goes into a power saving mode and only shows the time of it. So what you can use this for as a technical diving, you can use it on land as well to tell time. So compared to its competitor, the MK3i, Teric doesn't do that much above water, but if you're looking for a dive computer that will do diving really great and you don't need all the activity tracking and so on, the Teric is worth looking at as well. It's top of the line dive computer, worth recommending to anyone looking at or consider starting or is already doing technical diving, but want a what-size dive computer instead of the big Perdix 2 we just covered. Suunto Ocean dive computer coming in at the last end. We did not plan to include this one in the original take, and we haven't included it in the first parts of testing, but we received it a few weeks ago and we wanted to include it in this video because, well, it's Suunto making a Garmin killer of a diving computer, or that's at least what the Suunto sales rep are referring to this as. So how is the Suunto Ocean as a dive computer? As I just said, we didn't include it in the first test, but we have been diving with it here. We have been trying to compare it to a few of its competitors. First off, Suunto Ocean is much like the Garmin's a sports and activity dive computer, so you can track up to 95 different types of sports, and then you can track a lot of different diving activities, single tank, multi-tank, apnea activities as well. It's not as technical as the Garmin dive computers, and it has a depth limit of 60 meters, 196 feet. So it's much less a technical dive computer compared to the Garmin MK3i and the G1 for that matter, and much more catered towards the recreational diver who can venture to the standard 40 meters and a bit beyond that as a technical dive computer, because it does have some technical dive specifications as well. Diving wise, you have this 60 meters depth limit. That's fair and fine for most divers anyway. It can track your air consumption as well. You can include up to 6 tank pots, so you can get your air on your wrist, which is really nice. The Ocean is running on the Bullman 16C algorithm with gradient factors, so you have a really good dive computer that gives you plenty of bottom time, as you know, with a lot of the other dive computers we've tested here. In our testing, the screen and the screen brightness, contradicting what I've said so far in this video, the Suunto Ocean is actually the brightest we've seen, so even brighter than the Apple Watch Ultra and the MK3i. Making it a really easy to read screen, really nice with the basic information at a glance on the screen. We were missing a bit of air integration data on the screen and the customizing of the screen, so to place the information where you want it. As you can both with the Garmin MK3i and the Shearwaters. Battery life, Suunto is promising us between 40 and 60 hours, and we got max 50 hours in our testing. So in between what they promised us, but about 10 hours away from the promised 60 hours. Still plenty of time for any dive vacation you would want to do, and it's charged via a wireless charger, so it's easy to charge. Just remember to bring that charger as well. It is a sports watch that can do diving as well, a dive computer that can do sports activities, just like we know from the Garmin MK3i, the G1, and the Apple Watch Ultra. Suunto is known for making compasses, yet this one does not have a compass in the dive computer mode. You have a compass on it, but you cannot use it while diving. They are saying that they will update that, so it might come at some point. We haven't seen it so far. I do also think that you have quite a lot limited information on the dive screen. You get your dive time, you get your no decompression limits, and you get your depth. And then all the air information, temperature, and everything else, you have to flip through the menu at the bottom. That's not really showing that much and not that clear, even on a really bright screen. I would just love to have some of this information, especially remaining air, you know, at a glance on the dive computer always, or have this screen being customizable. And that's coming back into this. I do feel like this is a dive computer that can do a lot, but a lot less than, for example, the Garmin and the Apple Watch Ultra. A lot of the things is not as intuitive. It's not as easy navigating, getting into the sports or changing in the settings. And it has a lot less functions in terms of what it's showing and what the data that you're getting out of it. That's just to point out some of the negativities. Still, you are getting a really good dive computer, the brightest screen we've tested so far, and at a good price as well if you are, of course, comparing it to the MK3i. So I do think this sits in quite well in between a lot of the dive computers and bringing in a lot to the table because it has all of the above water activities you get to it. All right, that was the last dive computer. I promise we won't include any more in this video. We will, of course, update future-wise, so do remember to click that subscribe button as well so you get new videos when we do more both in-depth and updates of these and other guides. All right, now it's time for you to get your hands on some of the dive gear that we've been testing here at DIVEIN. First off, you have to subscribe to our newsletter because that's how we reveal the winners of the dive gear. We will pick out based out of comments in this video and send some of the gear. Now remember, we're going to do sweepstakes like this every month, so other videos will have other competitions. But in this one, what I would like to know is which of the 10 dive computers we covered so far is your favorite and why? Tell us down below in the comments. Remember to subscribe to the channel so you get new videos, but also remember to subscribe to our newsletter so you know if it's you that we picked out as a winner. So this was the list of the best dive computers at the moment. We've been trying to gather as many different models so you can find that perfect dive computer that fits your needs. Remember, this is not a list of 1 to 10, the first being the best. Each dive computer has something unique that it offers you as a diver, and each diver is different. So there's not one dive computer that fits all. Then as you can see, we have different budget options, but we also have different specs and features of each of these dive computers. We tried to compile these as best as we could, both in terms of our testing that we've done, but also in terms of how we found using these dive computers. That was it for now. I'm Tom from DIVEIN, and this is the best dive computers so far. It's top 11 now.